Welcome to season 2 of Sex, Drugs, and Soul. Sorry about my little hiatus and going cold on y'all for longer than anticipated, a good 4 or 5 month break. And I guess if that isn't evidence of my attachment style, what is? A lot has happened since then, like so much. Almost, but before we dive in, I actually got an oracle card deck as a gift for my birthday in Egypt. I'm like, why don't we just pull a card? Today is about being a little bit more impromptu, less, it doesn't have to be fucking perfect. We can just do it. Because I was like, do I need to get my hair ready? I need to put all my makeup on. I'm like, no, just show up. Be real and be authentic and in your humanness. And that is what's going to resonate, not whether you look a certain way and that sort of thing. It's going to be more about the messages. And so, in the shares, okay, that one for some reason. The water carrier. All right, let's see what that stands for or means according to the deck. Let's take a peek. The water carrier. Underneath it, it says, what really matters, reflect and reprioritize. There's been a lot of that happening since I gave my sacred yes to Egypt. And more on that, because in this episode, I definitely plan on giving you a little life update and unpacking Egypt a little bit of what else. Oh, that's cool. I just saw Avalon pop up, and my Egypt guide and fearless leader is in Avalon right now. There will be an episode of the two of us unpacking Egypt coming out whenever she gets back. And I'm also going to go to Avalon next August, pretty sure. Okay, the water carrier. Found it. The waterfall, the water carrier. What the heck? Oh, what? Water oracle? Water. What? Water carrier. Got it. Here we go. Okay. It says, in most parts of the modern world, humans have become disconnected from each other and the planet. We've forgotten simple things like where the water that sustains us even comes from. We speak about creating harmony and peace on Earth, but really our focus should be on creating harmony and peace with the Earth. Is it possible that it's our disconnection from seeing Earth's resources as sacred that's made us disconnected? When we look into the future, we can see that without water, there can be no life on Earth. Without water, humanity cannot survive. This is a card about getting your priorities right and focusing on what really, truly matters. In our busy world, it's so easy to get swept up in things that seem important and urgent when really, at the end of the day, we realize that worrying about them has been a waste of time, resources, and energy. It's time to take a moment to pause, reflect, and reprioritize, to focus on what really matters, to chop wood and carry water, to care for those in our community, to understand what's really, truly important and act accordingly. And it has a couple of soul inquiry questions. What are you worrying about or doing that's a waste of time, energy, and resources? What are you being called to focus on instead? Well, the one question that I've been asking myself recently after I joined this online wellness community, and it's a heart-centered community. It's beautiful. If you want to hear more about it, send me a message. But one of the things that one of the leaders within the community posed or asked that it just keeps coming up daily is, how can I be the answer to someone's prayer? And I'm like, what if we all went about our day acting in accordance with that? I'm like, that is beautiful. And who knows, like maybe this podcast is an answer to someone's prayer. Maybe me showing up for myself is an answer to my prayer. Maybe going and doing some self-reflection helps you show up to where you can be the answer to someone else's prayer, or just by showing up for yourself, you are the answer to your own prayer. I don't know. But let's get going. Okay, so Egypt. I'm just going to pull up some Egypt notes that I took, just some highlights so that I didn't forget. Okay. So since the Sacred Yes in Egypt, which was in February, I met Marie at the Conscious Life Expo in February, and I met her and I was like, oh my God, I'm going to Egypt with you. I will find a way. I don't care what it costs. I am going. And since then, a lot of shit unraveled. Since giving that sacred yes, it seems to be that I had to go through an alignment to even get on the plane to go to Egypt. There were some relationship shifts. CR and I are no longer together, although we plan on doing a podcast to share some of our um, thoughts about that, but we are still writing together, co-creating. We're just on two separate paths right now, and our relationship has evolved more into a friendship, and with me slightly holding on for hope in the future. That's just where I'm at right now. Just full disclosure and honesty. Um, since the sacred yes, there was a heightened anxiety. Like I would wake up and just like I'd feel that like heavy or butterfly or anxiousy feeling in my chest. And then there's a certain amount of facing my fears. I've since had a revelation about the anxiety. I was laying after I gave my sacred yes to this therapist named Grace, which how interesting is that? That as I'm going through this other like shadowy transformational darkness period in my life, I reach out to inquire about some ketamine assisted therapy. And my therapist that they matched me up with, because I'm like, give me someone woo woo, give me someone spiritual. Her name is Grace. Finding Grace in the Shadow is a subtitle of my book. I was like, wow, isn't that an interesting synchronicity? But anyway, I was laying on the floor after I might have taken a microdose or two. It might have been a little bit more than a micro, whoever measured those capsules. So I was listening to some music. I was laying in Shavasana. I had just done some movement and I had this aha moment that's like, oh, to love all of me, I have to love my anxiety too. And then it shifted to, oh, I get to love my anxiety too. And then it was like a, like, fuck, that seems like a challenge. Or can it just be like that simple paradigm perspective shift and love that part of myself too? So anyway, that's another like little aha moment that I've had within the last little bit. But also burping, moving some energy. Okay. So I before I get to Egypt, there was like full moon, a couple full moons, and I was just so energy and full moon sensitive. Like it was affecting my sleep for 2 or 3 days before and 2 or 3 days after. And if you know me, you know I love my sleep. So you know I was probably a little grumpy around that time. But I woke up in the middle of the night and I could see the full moon outside my bedroom window. And I just like stood up. I mean, not stood up, but like I sat up in my bed. And I had this feeling. I was like, oh my God, I'm going home. And I just started crying and bawling in the middle of the night. And then interestingly enough, whenever I land and my feet are on the soil in Egypt for the first time in God knows how long, definitely don't feel like it was the first lifetime. I definitely feel like I've been there a time or two, or maybe coming back from the future. We'll get into more of that later. The first thing that Waleed, the tour guide, does that he says to me, he gives me a hug and he wraps his arms around me, and I'm like, this feels nice. He said, welcome home. I was like, there's also been an alignment of clients and feeling and leaning into the truth as resonance and sensation in my body. Like when those emotions arise, when those chills go through my body, when the little goosebumps or what I've been calling truth bumps now cross my body, it's like, oh, that's an indicator for me of truth as resonance. And like there's something there, or there's some kind of shift. I had also had like a heightened and shamanic dream space. Some of the dreams, not always pleasant ones, were definitely giving me messages. And so I would wake up and journal about it afterwards. All of that to say that the woman who went to Egypt is not the one who has returned. First of all, she came back married. I married myself, guys. I even bought myself a ring, and it's this gorgeous, like segment vibes, jaguar looking cat animal with rubies and diamonds. And I was like, oh, the rubies will signify the root chakra. The diamonds will signify the crown and the connection between the two. And so there's definitely been some of that. It just seems like there's been a dying of the old and opportunities to stand up and use my voice. I mean, like anything from going to a drive-through at Juice Land the other day, and I had inquired, I'm like, hey, are you guys still doing like a birthday something or another special where you get like a coupon or free smoothie for birthdays? And she's like, I don't know, but I'll find out for the next person. And it just came out like, actually, I would prefer if you would find out for me. And before I would have never said that, but actually just like even voicing my desire with the Juice Land lady, that was a big thing for me. And so she gave me a coupon for the next one. But that I'm just noticing things where it's like less of a filter and I'm just expressing or saying things. Old jobs and old behaviors just don't feel good anymore. I deleted all dating apps. I was like, if I'm going to meet someone right now, it's going to be organically, or I just need a break from it and just to focus. And yeah, I'm just listening to, if it doesn't feel good, that's my feedback and I'm not going to do it. And I see that as creating space for the new and aligned. And Marie called it, she's like, Kristin, quit putting compromise in your cauldron. And I just love that. I do think of it like what we are, our feelings and our intentions and our emotions and what we desire, that's in our cauldron. And are we sending mixed signals if we continue to do the things that don't feel good? So how can we take a little step at a time to create space for the new and aligned, or to work towards the vision and to our possibilities? Okay, but to break down, moving on into what some of the things that arose while I was in Egypt. Well, one, I'm probably going to be hosting my own tour there in 2025. It'll be a little bit different, but I am foresee doing that. I don't know how much of it may be like more feminine vibes, more gathering inspiration for writing and or sacred sexuality. We shall see. That is TBD. But before we got to the Sphinx, day one, private visit at the sunrise at the Sphinx. So that night, I had a throat chakra dream before we got there. And in my dream, I remember looking up at the sky and I came to because it felt like something fell into my throat and it jolted me awake in that present moment. It was like, like something almost choked me in a little bit, but it was in my throat chakra. And I know I'm here to use my voice to amplify and share my wound wisdom, share my womb wisdom and my wound wisdom and my creativity wisdom, and just be playful, share my voice, use it to amplify and raise a collective consciousness. Got it? Good. Not always the easiest thing to do. Like I've been putting off this podcast since I got back. Anyway, so I go to the Sphinx and I'm so happy and grateful that we had a private visit, because I wouldn't have known if I'd gone solo to check into a private visit to be able to actually touch and place my hands on this physical structure. But I placed and traced my finger across the hieroglyph and I felt an energetic charge sensation run through my body. And I was like, whoo, I felt a tingle, guys. I felt a tingle. And we had this beautiful opening ceremony and this emerald green cauldron. And my message that I had walking away from the Sphinx, because I had actually went in to, let me grab my Egypt book and journal actually real quick. Yeah, this will probably help me. Oh, turned it right to the Sphinx. Okay. So my intention for going into the Sphinx was to illuminate my core power for acceptance, lay to dormancy negative thought patterns and self-sabotage defaults, and offer love and receive guidance on mission, purpose, and relationships. And the message that I got there was just like a help others increase the capacity to feel and express. I was like, that's it. What you got? What else you got for me? That's a big thing, especially if you think about the feeling it to heal it, idea and notion, or just being able to express in our creative longings and to live in our fullest authentic expression. So if I'm here to help you feel, guys, I love that. I don't know what I put on here. Oh, I put opportunities to use my voice. I forgot what my note meant, guys, but it does seem that there has been more opportunities to use my voice and follow my desires. Like even a weekend or two ago, I went to the launch event for this wellness community that I joined, and I had taken this woman's sacred sexuality course on the platform. And previous me would not have gone up to her and introduced myself, but I just went up and introduced myself and I was like, hey, I took your course. I'm drawn to you. And I just want to say hi. And now it's kind of cool, but I'm meeting with someone on Monday to explore possibly being part of their sacred sexuality journey in the fall. And if I had not done that, who knows, those dots maybe not connecting. Um, it's just pretty cool. Like it reminds me of being at ISTA and one of the practitioners saying that lean into your desires and following of those desires. It may not always be sexual oriented. It may be that that person may know someone to introduce you to, or that person may have a book or something or a song that's going to impact you in a certain way or shift your trajectory in one way or the other. And so I think that's pretty cool. And then that night, okay, so drumming and chanting in the subterranean chamber at the Great Pyramid during all the solar flares and all that stuff that was going on at that time was not on my bingo card for 2024. However, that's what happened. I carried and lugged my drum as we descended into the earth. As I pondered, like, oh my God, is this going to be the night that this structure that's been around for who knows long exactly, is it going to be the night that it decides to crumble? And am I going to be here in the ruins? I had to excavate my body and my drum and my friends. No, I really had to go into some fears there. And I'm so grateful that one of the people in our group also mentioned though, like, how about we turn out the light? So we were in the darkness, like going on this drum journey. And then when we finally came out of this shamanic kind of journey, and I felt so settled into my body. And I had to go through those fears and navigate it and come to this point of acceptance, being like, oh, it's okay. If if this thing crumbles, it's okay. If I shit myself, okay. I accept it. It is what it is. I'm not gonna just like fixate on the fear. And then I was able to release it and go on this journey. And I was singing and chanting, and that was not me before. I'm like, where's this coming from? I don't know where this is coming from, but I'm allowing my vessel, I'm allowing it to be expressed through my vessel. So that was really cool. And it's a good thing that I was doing my workouts beforehand, because afterwards we had to climb this damn stairmaster to this king's chamber at the top of the Grim Pyramid, or closer to the top anyway. And we had a ritual, powerful time there where we consciously laid in the sarcophagus in the king's chamber and really thought about, who am I putting to rest? Who is emerging? What am I leaving behind? Who do I want to be in the world? And who am I stepping out of this sarcophagus? And we overcame some resistance. There was a guard there that was like, no, you're not going to do this. And it's like, actually, we paid for this private visit and we're communicated that we could have like our meditation journey. And I get that certain things are not legal in other countries, but there was no us not getting into that damn sarcophagus. So we overcame resistance, and I really sent love to him in that moment where he was trying to tell us no, yet also keeping my physical space from him. And so we continued, and it was very powerful. And then, those aurora borealis and all the lights that were seen across the globe on like May 9th, May 10th. You're welcome. No, I'm teasing a little bit. But we were in the Great Pyramid. I think how cool of all the billions of people on the planet to be inside the Great Pyramid during all of that, energy. And what were we receiving? What were we amplifying? It's just so cool. And so that was day one. So we started our day at the Sphinx and we ended it from 9 to 11 that night at the Great Pyramid. And I'm not going to go over every temple. I'll probably just highlight some of the ones that really stood out to me. And the next one that really stood out to me was Temple Dendera, Hathor. Dendera means light, and just kind of cool that later in the trip, a local called me light or something to do with the moon goddess. I was like, wait, is that Hathor? Is that Isis or whatever? I had done like a ritual prior to going into Egypt for Hathor, because I just felt like she was like the mother of creativity and a doula, and she was the goddess of sacred sexuality and playfulness and fun. And so that very much resonated with me. And let me tell you, it really did feel like I had a rebirth there. First off, we started going into the temple singing. All the women were singing. We were singing, We are the women and we've come to drum. We are the channel between the earth and the sun. We hold the wisdom of the ancient ways and we will bring peace to these troubled days. So we're singing that as we're walking in. And eventually, and the pillars, oh my God, the pillars are just so massive and they're just etched with all these incredibly ornate hieroglyphs and messages. And there's some color left in this temple of like beautiful blues. It was just breathtaking. And this one we did not have a private visit at, but it would just seem like the crowd would kind of part and we would have our own sacred time there. It was really neat how it happened like that. And I connected with one temple guard, and kind of how it works is that they'll want to show you special places or off the beaten path places, and they do want to tip most of the time. However, this guard that I connected with there was showing me all these like cool places that I wouldn't have found or discovered had I just been on my own. And I noticed that he was carrying like mala beads, and it didn't seem like when I tipped him, it didn't seem that he really was wanting that, although he accepted it. Um, but this one, we were just following it. Really, he took us to this one area where you could feel the womb energy. It felt like I was in a womb and it was very palpable. And then he brought me into this light, and I just started bursting out crying because it really felt like a rebirth. And as I say that, my fingertips are tingling. And then I watched one of my counterparts, my sisters, go into the light, and I'm crying. I'm like, this is just so beautiful. And, it really was symbolic to me too of trusting and choosing love over fear and the importance of play. And since then, I've really been diving into how play is so important, and play makes me feel lighter. And if I think about play as enlightenment, like, well, I feel lighter whenever I'm playful. I feel spiritual and more tapped into my inner kiddo when I'm playful. Like, I feel like play is so much more powerful than we really give it credit for. Um, and at this place, like, yes, we were playful and on a mission and following a guard and following him to secret spots and crawling up and down stairs and into hidden spots in rooms. And then we went to the rooftop and we're singing and had a little ceremony. And then we had a time to just kind of like go on our own and do another little adventure. Well, I went to a birthing chamber outside of the main entrance, and I was really feeling this call to leave this rose quartz that I had carried with me, because I feel like I was receiving so much that I wanted to leave a blessing to, and have that be like a little balance of the blessings to and from the temple. And CR had given me this rose quartz when we first met. Like, he had two closed palms in front of me, and he's like, pick one. Well, I picked the rose quartz. And to me, that is very symbolic of love. And to leave it behind, it was also a little challenging because it was a piece of us and a piece of our relationship. But I ended up leaving the rose quartz in the wall of the birthing chamber as an offering. And I felt as if I had been holding on to the hope of us, and that wasn't the truth of my present reality, and that our relationship had shifted. And I'm still so grateful that we're in one another's lives, but I needed to let go of the stories and life visions, while also planting seeds of love for us both, whether that means we are together again one day or not. So as I was leaving the chamber, there was definitely a moment of looking back over my shoulder and tears rising to the surface and letting go. And like, I almost wanted to rub back in and grab it. I really did. And then, it just feels also like a balanced idea of to birth something new and a way of being or relating in the world. I had to let go of the past and the attachments and trust. And I wrote down, there's a bit of grief and release of putting the CR rose quartz crystal and being okay and letting go of attachment, to a constructed story, being okay if we don't blossom in the future, and trusting what's the highest and best for both of us to blossom. And it felt very symbolic of leaving something, the temple, the birthing chamber, and someone, CR, and whoever I interact, better than I found them. And I just really like that idea. And also seeing, the reverse true. Like, I'm better because of having interacted with, these certain people or places or things, or even if it was a quote unquote negative experience, it also brought some kind of awareness, or the contrasting bit of information. It brought some kind of awareness to the forefront, either increasing awareness, getting clarity on what I do want, what I don't want, that sort of thing. And then I also had like a freaking awesome story idea, which I will not share because I'm keeping that sacred. But I left with a new book idea, and the book idea is fiction. And I just think that is so dope. And I am so grateful. And side note, I've also signed up for a screenwriting course that starts in the middle of July. So I will be making leaps and bounds and strides towards crafting my book into a screenplay or to a TV series. I might play with both, or I might just do one or the other. And also, what's been cooling off since I came back from Egypt is my credit card. We did a shit ton of shopping there. Oh my God. I don't even know why. But I mean, of course, I had to get some Egyptian cotton ISIS sheets, which I have not gotten to ISIS yet, by the way, and I will. But that day we also went oil shopping. And of course, I got some lotus oil. Been putting that in my cacao. I've been putting on that on my throat and my heart, my third eye. And just sometimes just rolling it underneath my nose because I love the way it smells. And I've been gifting people and friends with little bottles of blue lotus oil from Egypt. And I just love using that as a gift. I love gifts, guys. So I just love that. And then we went to the Luxor temple that night. It was gorgeous. However, moving on to another one that like really, really felt some kind of way. Actually, I mean, I love going to the temple Sekhmet. I don't know if I consciously felt something in my body then. It's just since then, Sekhmet and I have cultivated a relationship, are still continuing to cultivate a relationship, as she is one of my guides and helps like instill and create that fire to do and put forth action towards my dreams and vision. But while we were there, we went into the room of the statue with Sekhmet, and I just kind of played in my mind with visualizations like, oh, we're going in one by one to see mama like little cubs. And then afterwards, I think that's when we went, I can't remember if that's when we went papyrus shopping, which I definitely got one of those, and it'll eventually be like a little portal above my couch. But apparently having something that is 69 inches wide is a little more challenging to frame than I thought, a little more expensive than I thought too. However, it looks like I'm going to be dropping that bad boy off tomorrow and just getting it framed because I'm like, I want that portal above my couch open and ready for business. So I can't remember if that's where we did the papyrus shopping or if we did the statue shopping that day. It might have been the next day that we did statue shopping. And let me tell you guys, I've never been a statue person. I was like, oh, great. This will be the place that I save money. Wrong. We went into this beautiful alabaster and statue place. And I go into their like quote unquote museum room or special room, and I see this Sekhmet statue, and I'm like, wow, that's really, really beautiful. I touch it, full on tingles through my body. I was like, well, I guess you're going home with me. And so now there's a Sekhmet statue on my altar, and when I feel it, I just feel an emotional charge and resonance. I'm like, wow, it's pretty powerful. I'm like, let me see here. Oh, it's funny. I'm looking at my notes about how I girl mashed buying that ring that I bought for myself. We did that. I bought that on the Nile cruise. Beautiful jewelry man and jewelry shop owner, just like smiled from the inside out, just beaming good energy, and more for than just what my credit card was depositing into his pocket. But I girl math the ring because I was like, oh, let me pay X amount cash and then X amount on my credit card statement. So that it'll be kind of like I can work it out in my mind. It'll be kind of like I just paid this for that. And one of my friends was like, oh, are you girl mathing buying yourself a ring? I was like, I guess I am. But so being on the Nile cruise was so incredible, and we would hop off on little points of interest along the way. We did the Valley of the Monkeys and Hatshepsut, which is really cool. We went to the tomb of High Priest Ai, which I guess isn't always open because I guess right now they're looking for the tomb of, I want to say Queen Nefertiti. I don't know how to pronounce it, but they're looking for her. They just happen to not be digging anything that day. And so we were able to go and have what felt like a private ceremony for the divine masculine there. And in that ritual was forgiveness of masculine woundings and relationships and initiations. And it was very powerful. And then I'm like, oh, but let's get to Isis. My girl Isis. I didn't know she was my girl, but now she's my girl. Um, it was really powerful. We had a private sunrise visit at the Isis temple, and we walk in, or as we're walking to the Holy of Holies, there's like tons of bats flittering about. And another thing, like bats apparently symbolize, um, they transformation and change. And then I was another one of my facing of the fear moments, because I like looked up and I was like, oh shit, I better keep my mouth closed because rabies. But and I'm like, oh, they're just like darting in and out. But I'm like, oh, that's interesting. So we're in the Holy of Holies, and we're going around one by one, and we've really crafted and owned our intention and our declaration that we're going to express and make a promise to ourselves, to those that are here, to the world. And as it's getting closer to my turn, my body is just like tingling. And I'm like, the tingling is in my toes, the tingling is in my hands. It's like I'm starting to tingle all over. And as I step up, I was second to last to go. And there was about 11 or 12 of us that were declaring those promises. And I put my hands on the altar, and it felt like I had the biggest surge of energy shoot through my body. It was like a cosmic orgasm. It was like and there was no, there was no holding back my expression of it. I don't know what it looked or sounded like. Actually, my teacher behind me later told me that it was like the Harry Met Sally moment, only real. And like she stepped closer to me and was like, I want to give you some of that. But basically, I had a big full body O and a cosmic orgasm in front of all my newfound friends and family. And it was all I could do to like get my words to formulate into what I was going to express. And my teacher stepped forward behind me, my teacher, friend, and love. She stepped forward behind me. She's like, that's your power, love. And I was like, well, this is a lot of fucking power. And now I'm like, that's also a lot of responsibility. How am I going to choose to wield my power for good? And I reined it in for a second. She's like, oh no, don't draw it back. Just continue to let it grow and harness it. And I'm like, wow, this is incredible. So I expressed my vow, which was to shine and serve in my fullest radiance, to be, to trust, and to love. And then afterwards, I was like, what happened? And there was like a Kundalini awakening. I mean, I felt like I was going to skyrocket to the moon. There was so much sensation running up and down my body. And then it slowly dissipated as we were completing our circle and ritual and ceremony in there. And then we go outside of the Holy of Holies, and we're having like a singing circle and allowing Marie to really receive and sit in the center, because she had given so much to us that we really wanted to put her in the center and allow her to receive and give her our love. And then lo and behold, one of my brothers in the group belts out with this voice, big thing around using our voice and inner union. And he just bellows out this beautiful voice. Every time I watch and listen to the video, full body chills. I actually sent him some lyrics to a song that I wrote, which is interesting. And so I also want to touch on that. Like, I don't consider myself a songwriter by any means. Storyteller, yes. Lover of words, yes. Songwriter, I don't know harmonies. I don't know like notes or any of that. But I gave myself permission to try. Gave myself permission to try something new and lean into being creative and playful and fun. And so I sent him those lyrics. So I can't wait for him to give me his rendition of it. And when he does, I will see if he's okay with me sharing it. Because I think that's a powerful and potent message that I'm also here to share, is to give ourselves permission to try something new and play. And we're not always going to be, those Grammy award winning artists right out of the gate. You might be, who knows? But just to be okay being new at something, and not necessarily bad, but being new at something and leaning into that and following those creative desires. Before I left for Egypt, I actually called a girlfriend of mine over and a songwriter or guitarist over, and I was like, can we have just like a little creative powwow going on? Because I would love to explore songwriting more and kind of have this co-creative environment. And we recorded a song that day, and it was really dope. We still have some parts of it to flesh out, but I actually loved the song and the lyrics, and it was cool to see like where each person's mind went with a certain phrase or question. And so I'm like, let me look over my notes real quick. I think that about wraps up the ISIS. Yeah. I just wrote down that him belting his voice was so symbolic of using our voices and releasing our fears to be seen and to show up. And I feel like that has dissipated the fear of being seen anyway. And I love, since that landing back on the soil, there was a big integration process where I felt like basically I could not be a certain amount of feet or meters from the restroom because I was letting go of so much pent up and stored guilt, fear, anger, and basically shit in my pants for 2 weeks. It was a great cleanse, guys. Summer body, you hear me? But I also had a chat with Marie, and she's like, envision those ISIS wings coming out of your back, and just they can be as big or as little as you want. So I've really been walking and carrying myself in the world since I've been back, like visualizing my wings. And it's like, how big do I want them today? Like I went on a little hike today, which I've been calling nature's tarot, which is what a friend of mine from Egypt called it. I just love that. Um, Finding the messages and synchronicities in nature. Went to the green belt, and I was like walking through the woods, and like I'm like, how would that future vision of me walk? How would she carry herself in the world? Well, you know what? Her shoulders would be back, her ISIS wings would be spread. She would be walking with a certain air of confidence and knowingness and playfulness. So maybe there's a little dance, maybe there's a little shimmy of those wings. So that is what I've got for you. Let me just double check. Yep. And then get the purging and integrating at home. Yeah, it's been beautiful. Like the alignment of clients and projects that I've started since coming back from Egypt. And speaking of creative projects too, I just want to say that I've shifted some of my offerings. So I am still ghostwriting for a very select few. I am guiding people through their nonfiction book writing process. And I've also created what I am calling is a creative powwow. So this can be 60 to 90 minutes of where we hash out your story idea, we outline your book, we write together. I serve as a sounding board for your story, what have you. This is just an opportunity for us to get creative and powwow together. And that offering is also up on my website. So check it out. And I'm going to let this stand for it is and come to a completion. All right. Love you guys. Mwah.